Welcome to Discover ASAP, the video interview series where we highlight the top findings and tools connected to the ASAP network. Today I'm talking with Juan Li, a senior clinical research associate on Team Schlossmacher, about a simplified spell test to identify Parkinson's disease. So, Juan, to start, could you tell us briefly about your ASAP project and the impact you hope to have on Parkinson's disease?
Yes, thank you for inviting me to this interview. I'm from Team Schlossmacher or the ASNPD team. So ASNPD represents alpha-synuclein connects the environment via the nodes to tickle Parkinson's disease. So we study Parkinson-associated hypoxia, the role of alpha-synuclein therein, and the involvement of olfactory circuitry. So from a probable site of disease initiation to a route for progression into the brain. Hyposmia is by far the most frequently encountered non-motor features associated with PD. Myself, I'm a data scientist and a clinical researcher. My main job involves developing predictive models of PD, analyzing clinical trial data, and designing and helping to conduct clinical trials. My ASAP project is to study the role of smell testing to distinguish patients with typical PD from those with other neurological diseases, as well as neurologically healthy controls. In my project, we have used data from multiple cohorts, including our own outward predict trial. Our innovation lies within a validated two-step model that combines a now simplified questionnaire of known risk modulators of PD with a now simplified smell test. Both can be self-administered at home or in the family doctor's waiting room. We hope this two-step screening tool can help family doctors to establish early evidence-based working diagnosis of probable PD to initiate the neurological referral and possibly by initiating treatment, such as with a low dose of levodopa as early as possible. So this tool can also help to screen for at-risk individuals who can be recruited into longitudinal cohorts, as happens with MG Fox Foundation's outreach effort and the Health Brain Aging study in Kassel, Germany, or intervention studies if there's such studies in the future. Also, we are using the comprehensive analysis of smell test results to determine whether hyposmia in PD and RBD can be differentiated from hyposmia in dementia and mild cognitive impairment.
Okay, very cool. So why did you create this smell test? I know it's a simplified smell test. So what advantages does this simplified version have over other tools like it?
So I'd like to start to just say that the simplified smell test is only developed for easier and faster screening in the PD context. So it should not replace other smell tests like update or Steven-6 in other scenarios, at least not without robust evaluation and validation. And for a more holistic assessment of one sense of smell, I think update and Steven-6 is still be the best to be used. But just in the PD context, the advantages of using our simplified smell test, or we call it a neuroscience test, we think there are three advantages. So the first one is it's much more shorter and focused. So just a little bit background for the neuroscience, we only have 8 scents in the test. However, in updates, there are 40 different scents, and in Steven-6, there are 16 different scents. So for neuroscience or the simplified smell test, it only takes less than or up to 5 minutes for the test taker to complete. While for update, it will take like 15 to 35 minutes for the participant to answer like all 40 questions. And for the Steven-6 identification test, that involves in-person visit and also we need the supervision of a professional. Just for update and our simplified smell tests, it can be self-administered at home. Also, just for the shorter smell tests, we will have easier data input either by the test taker themselves or they can send the card back and our research staff can input data. So the shorter test will have less human error like expected. The second advantage of the neuroscience is much more cost effective because we only use 1/5 of the cents compared with update. So like right now we're working with the manufacturer of update to produce our own neuroscience test and current cost is much lower than what we expect for update 40. So the third one is for one less obvious but equally important improvement of neuroscience is like we add a fifth I cannot identify it option in the test. So for all the smell tests, the neuroscience update and different stakes, they all multiple choice tests, meaning like the test taker will be presented with a scent and then they will give like 4 or 5 different options and the test taker will choose one option that best represents the smell they just smelled, the scent they just smelled. So for other tests, there are only 4 options, and then like one correct option and 3 different structures. And even if the test taker didn't smell anything, they still need to just make a guess and randomly choose one option of the 4. But this is actually a little bit problematic. It's called random guessing. So it can introduce noise into data for sure. Just thinking if someone has no sense of smell, just by guess, they still have like a 25% chance to make a right choice, right? And the second one, just from our experience of administer upset in our cohort. So for some people with like severe hypoxemia or even anosmia, it's very frustrating for them to have to repeatedly make a guess through 40 different scents. So some of them just like end up giving up the test and thinking it's not really meaningful. So in our neuroscience, we add a fifth option called I cannot identify it. So we still encourage test takers to try to smell the scent, and if they cannot smell anything, they just choose I cannot identify it. This is still meaningful answer, and it will improve compliance.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that having that option would be really useful and add to our understanding a little bit better. Um, Following up on that, how do you intend to use this smell test to further our understanding of Parkinson's, or how do you envision other researchers using this platform?
So we envision there are two, like in general, there are two like scenario for using this smell test. One is for as a research or screening tool, just for clinical studies. The simplified smell test can be used by us and other researchers to identify people at higher risk or of having or developing PD and recruit them in like prevention intervention studies, longitudinal studies, to help the development of disease-altering treatment if possible. And also, the smell test can be used as a diagnostic tool. So we now envision this tool is can be used by family doctors. So then the family doctors. So if there some patients have worried like some symptoms like may suggest PD, and the family doctors can use this smell test and better pair with our questionnaire to establish evidence-based working diagnosis and initialize the neurology referral and even treatment. And then the smell test and questionnaire results can also send to the neurologist, which they can use the information to help them to confirm or reject a working diagnosis or to further differentiate the diagnosis if it's typical PD or is other similar forms of other neurological disease. So
Okay,
the same
very
as other research team, yeah, the usage is like very, very straightforward.
okay, great. That sounds great to hear. It sounds like it could be really useful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And related to that, how could someone use the simplified smell test in their own lab? Are there tips or tricks that you can share about the protocol, or is there a place that the protocol is made available?
So using the simplified small test is quite straightforward, especially for teams they already use either update or system stakes. So the small testing is like very easy to conduct. And also we have included instructions of that on the pamphlet of our neuroscience test. So this is a simple scratch and sniff test. The test taker will scratch the sticker with their fingernails or sharp object and then have a sniffle scent and make a choice for the 5 options we presented to them. And then the research team can choose the data input methods either by the test taker themselves or the research team can input the data. And in terms of tips or tricks, like there are a few tips, but it's more for like all smell testings alike. So the first one is to always avoid food and beverage consumption, especially if like the food beverage have a strong odor. For example, like coffee, you must avoid drinking coffee before and during doing the test. And the second one is always to pair the smell test with some screening questions. Say if if someone has like reduced sense of smell, it may be because this person just having a bad cold or having a seasonal allergy. So you really want to rule out those reasons first. So I think the smell test should always pair with some screening questions for like maybe seasonal allergies, colds, nose injuries, or anything can explain the hypothermia other than like neurological disease. And a little bit like self promotion here is like if you are using our questionnaire compared with the smell test, we already have that screening questions built in the questionnaire.
Okay, cool. Yeah, those are really helpful tips. I think that will be great for other people to know about if they start using this in their own lab. Before we close, is there anything else you would like to share that we didn't ask about?
So one thing to report is our current effort of peptide comparison of neuroscience versus updates or season sticks. So we're now testing it in 3 international sites in Ottawa, in Boston, and Newcastle, Germany. And the current neuroscience test can be administered in 4 different languages: in English, French, Spanish, and German. And we are possibly like I'm speaking Chinese, so we maybe have a Chinese version. But just like the small test itself is more than just language. There's another thing we haven't talked about is the cultural or lifestyle factors in small testing. So all small tests, including ours, need to include sense and options that are familiar to the population being tested. So, for example, things like root beer or pumpkin pie are familiar enough to the North American population, so they're included in upset. But like we tried in different population, and people from Europe or from Africa just don't really know what that should smell like, so they cannot make a choice. So there are a different version of upset to address this cultural difference, and we are trying to do the same. However, in order to do same, we need to have collaborators from different cultural backgrounds, so different cohorts, so we can test and tweak our smell test. And we think ASAP or the CRN could be a great platform for us to find like interested collaborators. So I hope after this interview we can have someone reach out and say, yeah, we can try it in our cohort.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's really a really important point that you brought up, and I'm glad to hear that you're considering the influence of cultural factors on developing this smell test. And yeah, I also hope that this video will reach some people that you can find some collaborators with as well.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, thank you so much for showing up today and telling us about the simplified smell test. It's really great to hear about the work that you and your team are doing, and we hope to hear more from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.